my fiancée texted, having the time of my life? Don't wait up, from her bachelorette party. The photo showed her in another man's hotel room. I replied, have the time of your whole life. Then I sent the screenshot to all the wedding guests with cancellation notices. Her maid of honor confirmed she'd been cheating for months, so we got engaged. Now she is fuming. Hey Reddit, my fiancée decided to blow up our wedding from her bachelorette party. One text message, one photo, and suddenly everything I thought I knew about my life changed. But the real kicker is that her maid of honor ended up spilling everything about a month-long affair, and now we're engaged. Yeah, you read that right. Strap in because this gets wild. I'm Roman, 31, male, and a software engineer at a tech company in Austin. Not the glamorous startup life you see in movies. I work for a mid-sized firm doing back-end development for financial services. Stable work, good benefits, and a decent salary that let me buy a house in South Austin before prices went completely insane. I'm the type who plans ahead, saves money, and actually reads the terms and conditions before clicking agree. My daily routine was pretty locked down. Up at 6 a.m., gym for an hour, work from 8 to 5 o'clock, then either coding side projects or working on my house. Weekends were for hiking with my dog Rex, a 3-year-old golden retriever who's basically the perfect wingman, and hanging out with my core group of friends who've known me since college. The house is my pride and joy. A 1950s ranch I've been slowly renovating room by room. I gutted the kitchen myself, learned plumbing on YouTube, and turned the garage into a workshop where I build furniture as a hobby. There's something deeply satisfying about creating something with your hands after spending all day writing code that nobody except servers will ever see. My friends always said I was too practical too. Roman, you've got spreadsheets for your spreadsheets. My buddy Jake would joke. But that planning paid off when I bought the house at 28 while they were still splitting rent on apartments. Same reason I maxed out my 401k, kept 6 months of expenses and savings, and actually had a plan for the future instead of just winging it. I met Charlotte, 29 female, 2 years ago at a mutual friend's wedding. She was a bridesmaid, I was a groomsman, and we got paired up for the processional. Classic setup, but she was stunning. Auburn hair, green eyes, and this infectious laugh that made everyone around her smile. She worked in marketing for a boutique PR firm, the kind of job that required her to be on all the time, managing social media accounts, and organizing events for clients. Our first date lasted 8 hours. We went to dinner at 7 p.m. and ended up closing down a coffee shop at 3 a.m. Just talking. She was fascinated by my renovation projects. She said she'd never met someone who could actually build things. I was impressed by how easily she could read people and how she seemed to know exactly what to say to make anyone feel comfortable. For the first year, everything was perfect. Charlotte would come over on weekends and help with house projects. Well, help might be generous, but she'd keep me company while I worked, bringing me coffee and making the whole experience more enjoyable. She had opinions about everything: paint colors, furniture placement, and whether the kitchen island should be marble or butcher block. I loved having someone to bounce ideas off. She moved in after 14 months, and I proposed 6 months later. The proposal was classic Roman, planned down to the minute. I took her to the spot where we had our first real conversation at that wedding during a sunset that I'd verified would be perfect based on weather forecasts and astronomical data. She cried, said yes, and immediately started planning the wedding. That should have been my first warning sign. The wedding planning consumed her. Not in the excited, happy way you'd expect, but in this intense, stressed-out way where every decision became a crisis. The venue wasn't prestigious enough. Then it was too expensive. The flowers were perfect until her cousin mentioned she'd used the same florist. The dress she'd dreamed about suddenly wasn't right because her sister had seen something similar on Instagram. This has to be perfect, Roman, she'd say, surrounded by bridal magazines and Pinterest boards. Everyone's going to be watching. This is our one chance to get it right. I handled the practical stuff: vendors, contracts, timelines, budget spreadsheets. Charlotte focused on the aesthetic elements and the guest experience. We made a good team, or so I thought. I was focused on making sure everything ran smoothly. She was focused on making sure everything looked perfect. Her maid of honor was Emma, 28, female, Charlotte's best friend since college. Emma was everything Charlotte wasn't: quiet and thoughtful, the type who noticed when someone needed help and just handled it without making a big deal about it. She worked as a veterinary technician, had never been married, and seemed genuinely happy for Charlotte, even when wedding planning stress reached insane levels. Emma was the one who calmed Charlotte down when she had meltdowns about centerpieces or seating charts. She'd show up with wine and chocolate, let Charlotte vent for hours, then gently guide her back to reality. I appreciated having Emma around because she could manage Charlotte's anxiety better than I could. "Emma's so lucky to have a friend like you," Charlotte would tell me sometimes. "She's never had a serious relationship. I keep trying to set her up, but she's too picky." Looking back, I wonder if Charlotte ever noticed how Emma's eyes would light up when I walked into the room, or how she always found excuses to help me with wedding logistics. The bachelor and bachelorette parties were scheduled for the same weekend, 3 weeks before the wedding. Charlotte insisted on Vegas. 4 days at some expensive resort with her college friends, her sister Emma, and a few coworkers. I was doing something low-key in town with the guys. Brewery tour, poker night, maybe some golf. "It's my last chance to be wild and free," she kept saying, which I thought was a weird way to phrase it. You don't lose your freedom when you get married to the right person. You gain a partner. But Charlotte seemed to view marriage as the end of fun rather than the beginning of something better. 3 days before she left, we had a fight about money. The Vegas trip cost almost $3,000. Flights, hotel, dinners, shows, and spa treatments. I wasn't trying to control her spending, just pointing out that we had wedding expenses and a mortgage. "You're being cheap again," she snapped. "This is important to me. Emma's the one who suggested Vegas, and she's been planning everything. I'm not going to look poor in front of my friends." Emma planned Vegas. That seemed out of character for someone who preferred quiet wine bars to loud clubs. But I let it go. $3,000 wasn't going to bankrupt us, and Charlotte deserved to have fun with her friends. The morning she left, Charlotte was buzzing with excitement. She'd packed 2 huge suitcases and spent an hour on makeup and hair just for the airport. "This is going to be epic," she said, kissing me goodbye. "Don't miss me too much." "Have fun, but not too much fun," I joked. Her smile faltered slightly. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. Just the standard boyfriend concern about Vegas. You know the saying, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas." She laughed, but it sounded forced. "You trust me, right?" "Of course I trust you." That was Thursday morning. By Sunday night, I'd learned exactly how much that trust was worth. The first 2 days were normal. Charlotte sent group photos from restaurants and pool parties. The kind of generic bachelorette content you'd expect. Emma was in most of the photos, looking less enthusiastic than everyone else, but playing along. There were a few individual shots of Charlotte looking gorgeous in designer outfits, clearly having a good time. Saturday's photos were different. The group was smaller. Apparently, some of the women had gone to bed early or chosen different activities. Charlotte looked more intoxicated than in previous photos, and there were guys in some of the shots. Not unusual for Vegas, but something felt off about her expression in those photos. She looked wild, reckless in a way I'd never seen before. Sunday was radio silence until 11:47 p.m. That's when my phone lit up with a text from Charlotte. "Having the time of my life. Don't wait up." The message came with a photo that made my blood freeze. Charlotte was in what was clearly a hotel room. Not the resort where her group was staying, but some generic business hotel. She was sitting on a bed wearing a black dress I'd never seen before, with her hair messy and lipstick smudged. Her left hand was visible, still wearing her engagement ring. But she wasn't alone. There was a man behind her, shirtless, with his arm around her waist. He was facing away from the camera, but you could see enough. Muscular, tanned, and definitely not me. The bed was unmade. There were empty bottles on the nightstand, and Charlotte's shoes were scattered on the floor. I stared at that photo for a full minute trying to process what I was seeing. My fiancée, 3 weeks before our wedding, in another man's hotel room, looking absolutely delighted about it. The timestamp showed it was taken 20 minutes before she sent it. My first instinct was to call her, demand an explanation, and assume there was some innocent reason she was half-dressed in a strange hotel room with a shirtless stranger. But the more I looked at that photo, the more obvious it became. This wasn't accidental. This wasn't a mistake. This was a choice. She'd sent that photo on purpose. I screenshot the message immediately, then sat at my kitchen table staring at my phone. Rex came over and put his head on my knee, sensing something was wrong. I scratched behind his ears while my mind raced through options. I could call her right now and wake up the whole hotel with my yelling. I could text back demanding answers. I could book a flight to Vegas and confront them in person. All emotional responses that would probably make things worse and definitely make me look desperate. Or I could respond with the same energy she'd given me. I typed back, have the time of your whole life. Then I opened our wedding planning spreadsheet and started making some modifications. The guest list was already finalized. 127 people complete with addresses, phone numbers, and email addresses. I'd been the one to organize it all because Charlotte wasn't good with spreadsheets. I copied everyone into a group email, wrote a brief message, and attached Charlotte's photo. Dear family and friends, we regret to inform you that our wedding scheduled for November 18th has been canceled due to unforeseen circumstances. Please see the attached photo received tonight for context. All deposits have been lost, but we wanted to give you as much notice as possible for travel arrangements. Thank you for your understanding. Rome and I hit send at 12:23 a.m. Then I called the venue, the caterer, the photographer, the DJ, and the florist. Most went to voicemail, but I left detailed cancellation messages. Yes, I understood deposits were non-refundable. No, this wasn't a postponement. The wedding was permanently canceled. By 1 a.m., my phone was exploding. Texts from friends, family members, and even Charlotte's relatives. The photo was making the rounds through our social circles like wildfire. My mom called at 1:15 a.m. Roman, honey, what happened? I gave her the condensed version. She was quiet for a long moment. I'm so sorry, sweetheart, but I have to ask, are you okay? You sound very calm for someone whose wedding just imploded. I'm processing, Mom. I'll probably fall apart tomorrow, but right now, I just need to handle the logistics. That's my practical boy. Your father and I love you. Whatever you need, just ask. I was handling things with mechanical precision because the alternative was complete emotional breakdown. There'd be time for processing the betrayal later. Right now, I needed to prevent 127 people from spending money on flights and hotels for a wedding that no longer existed. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma. Roman, can you call me? It's important. Emma, in all the chaos, I'd forgotten she was in Vegas, too. She'd been in the background of Charlotte's earlier photos, but not in that final hotel room shot. She'd probably been back at their resort when Charlotte decided to blow up our relationship. I called her. Roman? Emma's voice was shaky. I just saw your email. I'm so sorry. Where's Charlotte now? I don't know. She left the casino around 10 p.m. with some guy she'd been talking to all day. I tried to get her to come back to the room, but she said she was living her best life and told me not to be such a buzzkill. Oh, what guy? Emma. His name is Tyler. He's here for some tech conference. Charlotte met him at the pool yesterday, and they've been together ever since. Roman, I need to tell you something, but not over the phone. When I get back tomorrow, can we meet? What kind of something? The kind that explains why Charlotte's been acting so strange lately. The kind that's going to make you angry, but you deserve to know. We agreed to meet Monday evening. Emma promised to get home safely and warned me that Charlotte would probably call when she saw the email. I told her I'd turn my phone off and was going to keep it that way until morning. I spent the rest of Sunday night going through our shared belongings, making lists of what was hers and what was mine. The house was in my name only. I'd bought it before we met. Most of the furniture was mine, too, accumulated over years of careful purchases. Charlotte's contributions were mostly decorative. Throw pillows, candles, and the kind of accessories that made a house feel more like a home but didn't require major investment. Her clothes took up half our closet. Her makeup and skincare products covered most of the bathroom counter. Her books, DVDs, and personal items were scattered throughout the house. Evidence of 2 years of gradually merging our lives. I found her laptop on the kitchen counter and, after a moment's hesitation, opened it. I felt guilty about snooping, but she just sent me a photo from another man's bed. Privacy expectations were officially off the table. Her browser history told a story I wished I hadn't seen. Dating sites she'd never mentioned. Direct messages on Instagram with men I didn't recognize. Search terms like signs you're settling and how to know if you're marrying the wrong person. There were hotel bookings in her name for dates when she'd told me she was visiting her sister. Credit card charges for expensive dinners for 2 at restaurants we'd never been to together. A paper trail of deception stretching back for months. But the worst discovery was a text thread with her sister from 2 weeks ago. I can't go through with this wedding. Roman is a great guy, but he's not exciting. He's not passionate. I feel like I'm signing up for a life of spreadsheets and home improvement projects. Tyler makes me feel alive again. Tyler, the same name Emma had mentioned. This wasn't a Vegas hookup. This was an ongoing affair that had been building toward this moment. Monday morning brought 47 missed calls, 23 voicemails, and 156 text messages. I scrolled through them while drinking coffee, treating them like an inbox that needed to be processed rather than emotional grenades exploding my life. Charlotte's messages evolved throughout the night. 12:30 a.m. Roman, call me right now. This isn't what it looks like. 1:15 a.m. You sent that photo to everyone. Are you insane? 2:45 a.m. My parents are calling me crying. How could you do this to me? 4:20 a.m. I made a mistake, but you've ruined my life. I'll never forgive you. 6 a.m. Please answer your phone. We need to talk about this like adults. The progression from denial to anger to bargaining was almost textbook. But there were no texts after 6 a.m., which meant she was probably sleeping off whatever substances had fueled her best life decisions. Her family was calling, too. Her parents, her sister, and even her grandmother had somehow gotten my number. I ignored all of them. Whatever Charlotte had told them, whatever story she was spinning, it was irrelevant. The photo spoke for itself. The people I did call back were my own family and close friends. They were universally supportive, though some were more shocked than others. Jake summed up the general sentiment. Dude, I cannot believe she sent you that photo. Like, even if you're going to cheat, why would you document it and send it to your fiancé? That's sociopath level right there. Emma texted around 3 p.m. Landed. Charlotte's not with me. She's staying another day to figure things out. Can we meet at 7 p.m.? There's a lot you need to know. We met at a quiet restaurant in South Austin, far from anywhere Charlotte and I had been together. Emma looked exhausted, the kind of tired that comes from emotional stress rather than physical fatigue. She'd been crying. Her eyes were red and puffy despite obvious attempts to cover it with makeup. I should have told you months ago, she said before we even ordered drinks. I kept hoping Charlotte would come to her senses, but she just kept getting worse. Worse? How? Emma pulled out her phone and showed me screenshots of text conversations with Charlotte dating back to February, 8 months before the wedding. She's been seeing Tyler since March. They met at some marketing conference in Dallas. She told me she was just flirting, that it was harmless, and that she needed to get it out of her system before settling down. The screenshots were damning. Charlotte describes Tyler as everything Roman isn't. Spontaneous, dangerous, exciting, complaining about my stability, my predictability, and my practical approach to life. Planning weekend trips to see him while telling me she was visiting family or working on client projects. Why didn't you tell me? I asked. Though I wasn't angry, Emma looked miserable enough without me adding guilt to the situation. She's my best friend. I kept thinking she'd realize what she was throwing away and end it herself. And honestly, Roman, I was being selfish, too. Selfish how? Emma's cheeks flushed pink. Because I've been in love with you since the day we met. I nearly dropped my beer. I know. It's terrible. You were with Charlotte, and she was my best friend, and I should have kept my feelings to myself. But watching her treat you like you were boring when you're the most incredible man I've ever met, it was killing me. Emma continued, words tumbling out like she'd been holding them back for years. Do you know what you did for her birthday last year? You remembered that she mentioned loving some obscure French cookbook she'd seen once. So, you tracked down a first edition copy and had it shipped from a dealer in Paris. It took you 3 weeks and cost $800. I remembered. Charlotte had flipped through it once and put it on a shelf where it collected dust. Tyler bought her a designer purse she'd been hinting about for weeks. It cost more than your cookbook, but it required zero thought or effort. She posted about the purse on Instagram 50 times, but never mentioned the cookbook once. Emma, I appreciate what you're saying, but I'm not finished. Her voice was stronger now, more determined. She complained that you were too focused on the house and too obsessed with your projects. But you spent every weekend for 2 months building her the perfect home office because she mentioned wanting a creative space once in passing conversation. You researched ergonomic furniture, bought professional lighting, and even had custom shelving built to display her marketing awards. I had done all that. Charlotte had used the office maybe a dozen times, preferring to work on the couch while watching Netflix. Tyler rents a studio apartment and works from coffee shops, but he's passionate about his art. Emma made air quotes around the phrase. He's a failed screenwriter who bartends part-time and lives off his trust fund. The picture Emma was painting wasn't flattering for Charlotte, but it explained a lot. I represented security and stability, while Tyler represented adventure and excitement. Charlotte wanted the validation that came with being desired by someone unpredictable, even if it meant giving up something real for something temporary. "There's more," Emma said quietly. "She was planning to break up with you after the honeymoon." "What?" "She wanted the wedding, the photos, the party, and the attention. She thought she could go through with the marriage and figure out her feelings later." Tyler was supposed to be her last hurrah, but she fell harder for him than she expected. The calculation in that plan was breathtaking. Charlotte was prepared to marry me knowing she was in love with someone else, planning to end the marriage. After collecting the social media content and gift registry items, that Vegas photo wasn't a mistake, Roman. She sent it to you because she wanted you to cancel the wedding so she wouldn't have to be the bad guy. Emma reached across the table and put her hand on mine. "I'm so sorry. I should have told you sooner. I should have been a better friend to both of you." I looked at Emma, really looked at her for the first time. She was beautiful in a completely different way from Charlotte. Natural, genuine, with kind eyes and an expression that suggested she actually cared about my feelings rather than her own drama. "Why are you telling me all this now?" "Because Charlotte doesn't deserve you. And I couldn't watch her destroy you anymore. And because she took a shaky breath. Because I'm hoping maybe now you'll give me a chance." The honesty in her voice was startling. No games, no manipulation, no hidden agenda. Just a woman who'd watched her best friend take for granted something she would have treasured. "Emma, I just found out yesterday that my fiancé has been cheating on me for months. I'm not exactly in the right headspace to start something new. I know. I'm not asking you to make any decisions right now. I'm just asking you not to write off the possibility completely." We spent the next 3 hours talking. Emma told me about her job, her family, and her interests, things I'd never learned. During 2 years of Charlotte's wedding planning, monopolizing every conversation. She was funny, smart, and had opinions about everything from local politics to the best hiking trails around Austin. She asked thoughtful questions about my work and actually listened to the answers. When she walked me to my car, she stood on her tiptoes and kissed my cheek. "Thank you for dinner." And Roman, for what it's worth, I think Charlotte just gave up the best man she'll ever meet. I drove home thinking about Emma's words. Not the flattering part about being the best man Charlotte would ever meet, but the part about giving Emma a chance. There was something appealing about the idea of being with someone who appreciated my practical nature rather than resenting it, someone who saw my stability as a feature rather than a bug. Charlotte returned from Vegas Wednesday evening, showing up at my house without warning. I was in the garage working on a bookshelf when I heard her key in the front door, followed by Rex barking his stranger in the house bark. I found her in the living room looking around like she'd never seen the place before. She was tanned and glowing from her Vegas adventure, wearing a designer outfit I'd never seen. The contrast between her appearance and her circumstances was stark. She looked like someone who just returned from a luxury vacation, not someone whose engagement had just exploded in spectacular fashion. "We need to talk," she said, setting down an expensive-looking suitcase. "About what?" "About how you completely overreacted to one stupid mistake and ruined both our lives." The audacity was breathtaking. "One stupid mistake. Charlotte, you've been having an affair for months." Her eyes widened slightly, surprised that I knew, not in denial of the facts. "Who told you that? Does it matter? Is it true?" She sat down on the couch, looking suddenly deflated. "It's not what you think. What I think is that you've been lying to me for months while planning our wedding, carrying on with some guy from Dallas, and then sent me a photo from his hotel room as your way of ending our relationship. Tyler and I connected, yes, but it wasn't supposed to go this far. I was confused about the wedding and about whether I was making the right decision, and he helped me realize what I was missing. What you were missing? Passion, Roman. Excitement. The feeling that your heart might explode from happiness or break from wanting someone so much it hurts." I leaned against the doorframe, studying her face. "And you never felt that with me. I felt safe with you, secure, like I could plan a future and know you'd be there. But that's not the same thing as being in love." The honesty was brutal, but I appreciated it more than continued lies. "So why go through with the engagement? Why plan a wedding with someone you didn't love?" "Because everyone said you were perfect for me. My parents loved you. My friends thought you were amazing. Even my grandmother approved. And you are perfect on paper. But Roman, I'm 29 years old. I didn't want to settle for safe when I could have extraordinary. And Tyler is extraordinary." Her face lit up in a way I'd never seen before. "He makes me feel alive, like I'm the most fascinating woman in the world. When I'm with him, I feel beautiful and dangerous and unpredictable. You make me feel like I should be grateful for stability. There it was. The core difference between us. Charlotte wanted to be swept away by passion. I wanted to be partnered with and respected as an equal. Neither approach was wrong, but they weren't compatible. So why are you here, Charlotte? If Tyler makes you feel extraordinary, why aren't you in Dallas with him? Her expression faltered. Because Tyler isn't ready for something serious. He needs time to figure out what he wants. The translation was obvious. Tyler wanted Charlotte as a side piece, not a life partner. He was happy to be her escape fantasy, but not her reality. Now she was trying to come back to the safety net she just publicly shredded. And you think I'm going to wait around while you and Tyler figure out your feelings? I think you love me enough to fight for us. I think you're not the type to give up on someone you plan to marry just because they made a mistake. A mistake is forgetting to pick up milk on the way home. Having a months-long affair is a choice. Sending me that photo was a choice. And choosing Tyler over me was a choice. I respect your choices, Charlotte, but I'm not going to enable them. She started crying then. The kind of strategic tears that had always worked on me before. Roman, please. I know I hurt you, but we can work through this. We can go to counseling. We can take time apart. Whatever you need. But don't throw away 2 years over one stupid weekend. It wasn't one weekend. Emma showed me everything. The tears stopped abruptly, replaced by anger. Emma, that jealous woman has been trying to break us up since day one. She's obsessed with you, Roman. Everything she told you is twisted to make me look bad. Emma didn't make you sleep with Tyler for 5 months. Emma didn't make you send me that photo. Emma didn't make you plan to divorce me after our honeymoon. Charlotte's mouth fell open. She told you about that? She told me about all of it. And you know what? I'm grateful. I'd rather know who I was really marrying before I married them. Fine. Charlotte stood up, chin raised defiantly. You want to believe your precious Emma over me? Go ahead. But don't come crying to me when you realize she's been manipulating you this whole time. She grabbed her suitcase and headed for the door, then turned back. By the way, Emma's been in love with you since college. Did she mention that part? Everything she told you was designed to break us up so she could have you for herself. Even if that's true, it doesn't change what you did. You're making the biggest mistake of your life, Roman. I'm offering you a chance to forgive me, to start over, to build something better. When you realize what you're giving up, it'll be too late. She slammed the door behind her. Rex came over and sat beside me, leaning against my leg. I scratched behind his ears and felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Relief. Emma and I took things slowly. Coffee dates that turned into dinner dates. Hiking with Rex, who adored Emma and seemed to approve of the transition. Long conversations about everything we'd never been able to discuss, while Charlotte dominated every social interaction. 3 months after the Vegas incident, Emma and I were officially dating. 6 months later, she moved in. The house she helped me envision, the one Charlotte had dismissed as too suburban, became exactly what Emma had always wanted. A home base for 2 people who enjoyed working with their hands and building something together. Emma loved my projects. She'd spend Saturday mornings at the farmer's market while I worked in the garage, then come home with flowers for the garden we planned together. She cooked while I built the custom dining table that would seat the family we both wanted. She read books while I restored the hardwood floors that Charlotte had wanted to cover with carpet. Emma's friends became our friends. Her family welcomed me immediately. Her parents were salt-of-the-earth people who appreciated that I'd fixed their kitchen faucet without being asked and that I made their daughter laugh until she snorted. Her father and I spent hours in his workshop sharing tools and techniques for woodworking projects. A year after Charlotte left, Emma and I were engaged. The proposal was everything the first one hadn't been. Spontaneous, emotional, and completely focused on the woman I was asking to marry me rather than the event I was planning. We were hiking at Hamilton Pool on a Sunday morning when Emma mentioned how perfect the lighting was for photos. She'd brought her camera and was taking pictures of the waterfall when I realized I didn't want to wait another day to ask her to be my wife. I didn't have a ring. I'd sold Charlotte's ring months earlier and put the money toward a down payment for Emma's veterinary school. But I had a titanium washer in my pocket from a project I'd been working on, and it fit Emma's finger perfectly. It's temporary, I said as she stared at the makeshift ring, tears streaming down her face. We'll pick out the real one together. I don't want a different ring, she said, kissing me. I want this one, the one that came from a moment when you couldn't wait to ask me to marry you. We got married 8 months later in my parents' backyard, surrounded by 40 people who actually wanted to be there. Emma wore her grandmother's wedding dress, altered to fit her perfectly. I wore a suit my father had helped me pick out. Rex was the ring bearer, carrying our actual wedding rings in a pouch attached to his collar. The ceremony lasted 15 minutes. The reception lasted until the neighbors complained about the noise. Emma danced with my dad. I danced with her mom. And we both danced with Rex, who wore a bow tie for the occasion and basked in the attention. Charlotte tried to contact me exactly once after learning about our engagement. She sent a long email explaining that she and Tyler had broken up, shocking that she'd realized what a mistake she'd made, and that she hoped we could find our way back to each other before it was too late. I forwarded the email to Emma, who read it and laughed. Should I be worried about Charlotte? Not even a little bit. About other women falling in love with my husband's stability and predictability. I pulled Emma close and kissed her forehead. Emma, you're the only woman I've ever met who sees my spreadsheets as foreplay. She grinned. Speaking of which, I updated our budget spreadsheet with the costs for the new roof. Want to see? God, I love you. 2 years later, Emma finished veterinary school and opened her own practice in a building I'd helped her renovate. We bought the lot next door and built the workshop of my dreams, where I now make custom furniture for clients. While she takes care of the animals she's always loved. Rex has 2 siblings now. A rescue cat named Widget who thinks he's a dog, and a horse named Charlie who Emma rescued from neglect and nursed back to health. Our house is full of fur and noise and the kind of chaos that comes from building a life with someone who shares your values. Charlotte, as far as I know, is still chasing extraordinary experiences with temporary people. Emma occasionally hears updates through mutual friends. Charlotte's living in Los Angeles now, working for an influencer marketing company, dating someone new every few months. YouTube just dropped this new hype feature. If you're hooked on this story, smash that hype button. It tells YouTube, this video deserves to blow up.